Hello, welcome back. I'm going to continue to talk about my book King Paimon, The Lord of the Endless Silence, The Lord of the Abyss, written by me, Anais Giulia. And today I would like to speak freely, something new that can come regarding the book or regarding King Paimon. And it has always been a pleasure to talk. I enjoy talking about my books, especially I talk in general only about my book King Paimon, even if I have written other books, but for this recording and for this playlist, the thematic is King Paimon, no? And it is quite interesting, first the recordings or the discussion about the book, as well as the book itself. No, it's always a little bit separate itself from the same way I can say, well, I am the author, or I can talk about the different process of writing, or the story itself, or about Paimon, or some other things that I have talked in other recordings in this playlist. At the same time, the book is that's the beautiful quality of a book. It is its own object. It's its own house, or it's its own book. That it's almost say, well, even me as the author can talk about the book and can give new insights. At the same time, the book is the book. And the reading from the book is always very different for me as well, depending on when I'm reading and which page I'm reading, or if I start in the beginning, almost to say, well, I read it already, I know a little bit what's about. And I always like to find parts in the book which somehow are a little more far away from my memory, So, well, this part I don't remember so well. Or the beginning I remember because I already read a lot from it, or I remember when I wrote it, and so on. So there are some different aspects for me too as well, or I'm seeking parts of the book that are a little bit new. Always to say, well, maybe this part is interesting, or which was this part, sometimes I jump, or I want to look more in the end, or more in the middle, or sometimes I like to read from the beginning. And today I would like to speak about King Paimon, even if you say, well, we already did speak quite a lot in the other recordings, but I will do in this recording as well. And as I've said, King Paimon is the character of the book. The book has his name as the title. Finally, the book is about King Paimon. The reflection is to say, well, everything what's in the book is to understand or to know better King Paimon. At the same time, it is a fictional work, of course. The book has a beginning and an end. At the same time, sometimes I think, well, I could continue or write it in a different story or something new, about King Paimon, that I could continue the story. At the same time, I will not, because this is the book for King Paimon. This is already written and published. But of course, one can continue the story. One can, could write another book. I will not, but I would still like to speak about maybe new aspects, or to say, well, if I was to write a continuation, just as an exercise, I would include a different part of the journey from King Paimon. I will maybe the book will be very different, or maybe the form it will be similar, but I will of course go on with the further story, maybe one that plays in the future, or one that is similar to this book, or there's a lot of freedom when one has to decide as a writer. And in a way, it's the beautiful aspect too of when you finish a book, it is finished. One doesn't have to necessarily work on the next one. Because there are other books or other stories that I want to write, but not only because of this, because I feel it's not necessary. This is already a large book. It does already represent King Paimon, but I would like to still talk about new aspects. Maybe that is not necessarily connected to the book itself, but it is still, no, because it is still about King Paimon. So it is connected to the book too. But there's a certain type of freedom that comes with it. And the story of King Paimon starts sometime somewhere far away in the past, no, and it transcends time, or it can move through time, no. It can appear, so to say, in different parts, from different people, from different stories or revelations, no. At the same time, in the book, there are parts where Paimon talks, or he represents himself, or the other parts where the girl talks, no. There's then the different scenery, the different parts of the book where Paimon meets the girl, and then of course the story changes. And in the recordings I have talked about Paimon, about his name, about the symbols, all the animals or the aspects of his dominion, no, to try to understand him better, and the different element that he carries, no. I think it's the interesting part to say, well, which elements and what they mean, or what is the symbol, or what's the meaning of it, no. So the book does reveal some of it, but as I've said, the book is different than the recordings that I'm talking about. The book, there is a separation between them. To say, well, the book now, it is a hymn that starts and goes through all these pages, and the story evolves or revolves around this thematic. There's a certain time, especially when you talk about ancient past, or very old time, or very old past. At the same time, the story moves, no, even if it's from the past into the future, and so on and so forth. And there are different scenes that appear in the book, and as any story, no, there's a continuation, no. It starts with the first page, and there's a continuation, and the scenes change, the book change, no. There's different elements or new elements come to the book. Sometimes there are a few repetitions in the hymn form. There are some things come again, and then there's another part of the story that unravels, and so on and so forth. There's like a slow flow of water, no, that it's always moving, but very, very slowly, no. It is not there is not the feeling there is a rush in the book of Paimon. In general, in all my books, I try to give this feeling, no, of like a slow river, a little river that flows, and so on. So the words and the story, move from one part to another, and at the same time, the setting is very helpful. The time, the colors, the poetic part or the stylistic part of a hymn or of a book or of a story. It's almost to say each book has its own colors, each book has its own language, each book has its own fantasy, storyline, feeling, settings, elements, symbols, and so on, no? I find King Paimon very interesting, beside being a beautiful large book, but I think it has different aspects that are interesting. Sometimes I do think about other books, no, always I don't compare them, but what I'm saying about King Paimon is true in some way, no, from my other books. At the same time, King Paimon was the first book that I wrote in this genre, if I was to call it a genre. Finally a book is a book. You cannot define it 100%. No book can be defined 100%. One can, discuss, is this more this thematic, is this more, one can, of course, find new or different elements. What is interesting in book King Paimon is that all the elements that come together fit very well to one another, no? There's continuity of the elements. There's or at least I try as the writer not to have discrepancy in the text, that the story can flow. If there is a little discrepancy, well, it is part of it as well. So, well, if the water flows in the river, sometimes there are some stones, there are some parts where the water moves, but important is that the story goes and goes and goes for as many pages as you like when you write. Some books you need more pages, you need to write the story larger. Some books are half of that or less, but still I like to give to my books a certain amount of pages that, it's, let's say 200, 300, 400 pages, that's like a medium size, or everything that is beyond 400, or let's say 350, 400, 500, and so on, it is a larger book. So, one, of course, to say, well, I could even write 1,000 pages, but I don't think I will write larger books than Paimon. I think it was my largest, It's the thematic itself. Even then, I still have the feeling I could still talk more, I could still continue the story, but I think it's enough, it's good enough for the book as it is now, As I said, I will not change it. That's the book, and that's the beginning, and it has an end, as the book. And the beautiful thing, one can still talk about Paimon, one can still continue to discuss, there's different parts of the book that one can discuss, or one can read from the book and see what wants to come through, or what subject, or there's almost like in a way, how you say, it depends to how one is reading the book. If you just read, that's the way I do it. Or if somebody is reading, and then it's almost like a slower type of reading, one can go faster through the pages, one can read in a slower way. Everyone is unique, everyone has their own way to read. And I will, I said, continue to talk about the book, and I will do some other readings. At the moment, say, well, what else? Because as I've said, I already talked in the other recordings about the book itself. So there are some I'm still searching for new parts that I can talk something new, and then say, well, we can talk about the exercise of the mirror. That's like it came through quite a lot in the beginning of the recordings, and it's like, well, when I don't know where else to go, I was go back to the exercise with the mirror, because it is interesting and it's helpful. So if you think, well, you say, well, every book has we spoke about a number of the pages, to say, well, every page is it's almost like a reflection, You say, well, the entire book is a mirror, or can be seen as a mirror, or say, well, the book reflects some parts back to me, It's always a dialogue as well when I'm reading it. In the book, of course, or me, the book doesn't do anything, but it's me, I'm reading it, and the words inside, or the meaning, or the story, has an impact, or makes me understand something new, or something to learn, or something to enjoy. There's always some type of thing, a reflection that comes back. Well, the detail is not so important to say, for the exercise, it's just to say, well, there is a reflection. And that's the beautiful aspect of any book, We expect from a book in some way or another to give us some answers, or to give us some type of pleasure reading it, or it's almost like we are searching for the story to resonate with ourselves when we read it. It has to have some interest. If it doesn't, maybe you're not interested to read it or to buy it. If it does, there's a closeness that I say, well, if I have the book, I can read it, and so on. There's acceptance to the book, acceptance to the story itself. And there's always a choice, Same Paimon say, well, yes or no. They'll say the book is there, the mirror is there, Depends how somebody expects to read a book, or what type of genre they like, what type of experience they like. As a writer now, say, well, I can only be honest to my own creation and the thematics that I choose, or the same for me too. They have to be interesting for me first, and then I hope, or I try, or I think that will be interesting for others as well. At the same time, as we deal with reflections, we don't really know. It's always a question of yes or no. A real reflection, say, well, maybe this person will like it, maybe it is not. I cannot say, no, or maybe for this person it will feel this way, maybe for the other person it's different, no? That's the unique quality of ourselves, how we relate, or which one can discover, no? It's almost to say, if I give a box with things for different persons, no, they're always going to be different parts or different objects, and even if I will put the same objects inside each box, every person will have a different reaction to the objects in that box, no? Even if it's the same. Somebody will say, well, this item reminds me of this, or this is for me meaning this. Even if it's the same object, the other person could say something else. And it's quite similar to a book as well. There's the surprise element, no? One doesn't know what it's inside a box, or one doesn't know what is inside the story. And there's the interest is if the interest is awake and is good, no? You'd say, well, I do want to read, or I do want to approach, and there is a time as much as long I can hold the interest, no? Or as long as I want. And that depends too on different factors. So there is, let's say, a certain time and a certain feeling, or a certain moment for a certain book. It doesn't say the book is bad, it doesn't say the book is not good, or it doesn't say the book is not, no. It's just a question of the right time, of the person, or there's that part has to be free and should be free, no. There's the part of choice, yes or no, and there's no force in it, no. At the same time, you say, well, yeah, all books are in some way or another like that, but I think in Paimon's book's case, it's even more. One can, as I've said, study it, one can read from it, one can have, different ways to work with the book, beside necessarily reading, no? Of course, reading is the main purpose of a book, but if somebody, it's nice to have a book and say, well, let's discuss it, or let's speak about the different ways we felt, or how we read it, what it meant, no? Like a discussion about the book. That is very much about the reflections, no? The exercise with the mirror, and say, well, if the book is the mirror, then we have the reflections, and then it's almost to say, well, the interest is different. There's almost like we put water to the plants, no? There's an element of growth, there's an element of interest, or interesting, when one talks about books in general. At the same time, the experience has to be your own, no? And so, well, if I want to talk about book, I have to have some type of experience with the book. Either I read from it, or I had some, readings from it, or contact with the book, no? It's not necessarily to say I have to read the entire book, otherwise I cannot talk about the book. That's not true, no? One can read a few pages from a book and already tell if it's good or not, one can already have a taste, or there is already a beginning or an interest, no? That of course one can read, and so on and so forth. I think we can read in different times, no? And so, well, maybe I buy a book and maybe I don't read for 5 years from it, no? And then one day I have time and I need this book and I start to read, and sometimes it's a surprise as well, like that. So the reflections, you say, well, it's something that happens naturally, no? To say, in our case, the book, and that part is interesting as well. at the same time, for me, the most interesting part is to write it. That's my interest is to write the book, to have the book and to enjoy the book in paper, and the process of writing or bringing the story to light or creating the book, that's like my passion, as a writer. That's what fuels me, I would say, gives me the fire, It brings me further into the story or into the subject that I'm writing about. So it's very much correlated to the subject or the book, and then the process of writing it, or the writing itself, and then of course after is the process more of reading the book once it's written, once it's done. I read the book too when I'm correcting it, so I do a lot of reading, editing, a lot of reading on the text to make sure there are no mistakes, It is always a nice surprise for me too when I see it in paper, when I have it in my hands. It's a good feeling of well done, or it's finished, here's the book, You see the pages, you see the cover, you see the words, you can open, you can read. That's why I do prefer paper much more than on the digital. But when I work on the book, I do it in digital format, and then I have the book in paper in my hands. And the experience of having the book in paper is really nice. That's for me. Of course, I will have each book I wrote in paper. I want to have them, and that's like my pleasure, to see my book finish like that in paper. And the focus has been a lot about my book in these recordings, but at the same time, there's the other exercises that one can still understand. It's always depending, say, well, if one starts the playlist with the first and then it goes further, even if sometimes the subjects that I'm talking about is different. But I hope the book, if someone is interested, brings a little more clarity, or brings a little more joy, into the aspect of reading and the aspect of Paimon. And I think that is like the thing that gives me most joy, as I said, the process of writing, the process to have the book, and then to read the book from it, and in the recordings I will still continue to do some readings. I will read from the book in different pages, where I open the book and then just read a few pages and record that with my voice. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to record the next recording. I will do just a reading from the book. Until next time, bye.